For decades, the razor edge of tactical supremacy was locked behind the armory doors of elite military units. But the rigid lines of that old world have shattered. The modern digital engine has collapsed the towering walls of premium manufacturing, dragging high-tier ballistic technology out of the shadows and placing it directly into the hands of the American hunter and target shooter. Today, affordability no longer means surrendering your tactical advantage or settling for structural failure. We are stripping down the 10 most formidable, budget-friendly firearm accessories dominating the market in 2026. This is where professional-grade utility meets the absolute power of the modern domestic shooter. Number 10, MR.Silencer Ammo Crate Utility Box. Ammunition has always been the lifeblood of any engagement. In the mud-soaked trenches of the 20th century, moisture and galvanic corrosion were the silent destroyers of armies, rendering thousands of rounds completely dead before they ever reached the chamber. Protecting your ballistic assets is a historical imperative. This crate tackles that ancient enemy by employing a proprietary tongue and groove, O-ring seal integrated directly into the lid. When you lock down those dual heavy-duty snap latches, that rubber O-ring compresses tightly, forging a microscopic barricade against ambient humidity and sudden atmospheric pressure shifts. It acts as an impenetrable vault, wrapping the beating heart of your rifle in a perfectly dry microenvironment. But we must address reality. While the high-impact polypropylene is exceptionally tough, it fundamentally lacks the raw, monolithic structural rigidity of a traditional steel 50 caliber military surplus can. It is built to support 65 pounds of internal payload, but if a heavy off-road vehicle rolls over it at a remote camp, the plastic will eventually surrender. Yet, for the level of environmental isolation it provides, this crate remains a critical logistical asset for your tactical loadout. Under $20. Number 9. Allen Hypolite and Savior Equipment Tactical Cases. Moving a precision instrument across unforgiving landscapes has always been a logistical nightmare. In the brutal theaters of past conflicts, a damaged rifle or a shattered scope meant a compromised mission and a fatal vulnerability. A tactical case is not just a piece of fabric. It is the armor for your armor. It acts as a mobile fortress, built to shield your delicate optical glass from the harsh realities of physical transport. These cases utilize heavy-duty industrial 600 denier nylon. This advanced material science creates a high tensile outer shield that aggressively repels moisture, rust, and violent abrasion. Inside, the partitioned modular storage relies on high-density foam padding to completely isolate your primary rifles. This stops your heavy steel barrels from violently striking each other during aggressive, high-speed vehicular movement. However, we must examine its tactical limitations. While excellent for terrestrial travel, this soft-shell architecture completely fails to meet the rigid crush-proof standards mandated by federal aviation laws. If you are loading your gear into the heavy cargo hold of a commercial airline, this soft fabric will not protect your setup from catastrophic compression damage. You will need a hard polymer vault for the skies, between $30 and $50. Number 8. Butler Creek Comfort Stretch Rifle Sling. For centuries, the marching infantryman and the deep woods tracker shared a common, agonizing enemy: musculoskeletal fatigue. Lugging a heavy weapon system across hostile terrain for miles at a time relentlessly breaks down the trapezius and clavicle. Traditional stiff leather and rigid canvas straps offered zero mercy, turning the sheer kinetic weight of the firearm into a blunt force instrument against the shoulder of the wearer. This sling confronts that physical toll by integrating advanced closed-cell elastomeric polymer. It utilizes the exact same high-density neoprene trusted to protect deep sea divers from crushing ocean depths. This material acts as a continuous, living shock absorber. As you navigate through heavy timber or brutal elevation changes, the natural downward pull of the heavy rifle is aggressively dampened by the inherent stretch of the fabric. It literally eats the kinetic energy, ensuring the weapon glides with your movement rather than grinding into your bone. But a true operator must acknowledge the limits of their gear. This setup is built exclusively for the slow, brutal endurance of the deep wilderness. It completely lacks the rapid adjustment pull tabs and quick detach hardware found on modern tactical two-point slings. If you suddenly need to transition to a secondary sidearm or execute a high-speed maneuver, this sling will not offer the instantaneous tension control required for dynamic, close-quarters movement. $22 to $24. Number 7. Wheeler FAT Wrench. In the unforgiving crucible of combat, the mechanical bond between a high-powered rifle and its precision optic is the absolute most critical junction on the entire platform. A failure here is a catastrophic liability. If the mounting hardware is too loose, the immense kinetic recoil of your weapon will violently shift the glass, resulting in a total loss of 0 when you need to neutralize the threat the most. If you apply excessive force, you risk physically crushing the delicate aluminum main tube of a multi-thousand-dollar scope, permanently destroying the internal tracking mechanisms. This tool acts as the ultimate mechanical fail-safe against human error. It utilizes a precision analog clutch mechanism. You set your exact rotational torque on the barrel scale, ranging from 10 to 65 inch-pounds. Once you reach the absolute limit of prescribed force, the internal clutch physically and audibly clicks, aggressively stopping any further rotation. It guarantees absolute surgical consistency across all your mounting hardware. However, a seasoned mechanic must recognize the operational drag. Because this is a classic analog system, rotating the handle cap to perfectly align the indicator takes deliberate physical time. It completely lacks the instantaneous push-button speed of modern digital LCD torque drivers. You are trading rapid digital convenience for raw, battery-free mechanical reliability in austere environments. $89.99. Number 6. Real Avid Gun Boss Pro. A jammed weapon is a fatal vulnerability. Throughout the grueling campaigns of history, the harshest environments on Earth have actively tried to destroy the infantryman's weapon. Corrosive salt, freezing mud, and heavy carbon buildup will relentlessly choke out the action of the finest rifle ever forged. Absolute, uncompromising maintenance is the only shield against catastrophic malfunction in the field. This kit operates as the mobile surgical trauma center for your primary weapon system. It completely abandons the flimsy, shattering plastic blister packs of the past. Instead, it utilizes an impact-resistant, engineering-grade polycarbonate resin case equipped with a proprietary kickstand architecture. This allows the entire command center to stand vertically on your bench, eliminating the chaotic spillage of microscopic jags and patches. The highly ergonomic, multifunction T-handle acts as an aggressive extension of your own arm, driving dense phosphor bronze bristles deep down the bore to violently scrub away baked-on carbon fouling. It even doubles as an emergency tap hammer to punch out stubborn pins during rapid disassembly. However, you must recognize the mechanical scope of this asset. This is a rapid deployment field kit, not a permanent armory installation. It is optimized for essential high-speed maintenance at the shooting bench, but it completely lacks the heavy-duty structural vices, specialized armorer wrenches, and massive leverage required for a total, professional gunsmithing rebuild, under $50. Number 5. Caldwell Deadshot Front and Rear Bench Rest Bags. The absolute foundation of precision marksmanship has remained unchanged since the dawn of the rifled barrel. Total mechanical stability. In the ruined, shattered cities of 20th century conflicts, elite snipers relied on heavy sandbags and jagged rubble to completely isolate the fragile human element from the violent weapon system. A microscopic tremor from a racing heartbeat or a shallow breath can throw a heavy hunting round completely off target at extended ranges. This resting system acts as the ultimate anchor in a chaotic environment. By acquiring the unfilled architecture, the operator commands total control over the specific gravity of their loadout. You can pack the interior with heavy, dry silica sand to forge an immovable, concrete-like block, or fill it with ultralight media for high-speed transport. Once deployed, the thick fabric aggressively molds around the forend of your stock, swallowing your biological tremors before the brutal ignition of the primer ever takes place. However, the wilderness is an unforgiving proving ground for synthetic fabrics. While this heavy-duty material is exceptionally durable on a smooth wooden shooting bench, it faces a severe tactical threat in the wild. If you drag this setup across the jagged, razor-sharp granite of a high alpine ridge, the brutal friction will eventually shred the underbelly of the bag, bleeding your stabilizing sand straight into the dirt. $20. Number 4. Modular budget bipods. Since the brutal static trench warfare of the early 20th century, operators have understood a fundamental law of ballistics. The earth is your greatest ally. Elevating the muzzle out of the mud while maintaining a rigid connection to the ground meant the difference between holding a defensive perimeter and being completely overrun. A bipod acts as the mechanical legs of a predator, biting into the soil to stabilize the violent storm waiting inside the chamber. These modern modular systems utilize advanced concealed internal springs and high-strength polymer sheathing. This engineering directly solves a massive tactical problem. It completely eliminates the loud metallic clanging associated with older, exposed spring designs. When you drop into a prone firing position in dense timber, the deployment sequence is dead silent, keeping your position concealed from your target. The heavy-duty Kydex-style materials prevent solar reflection, turning your platform into a ghost in the brush. But no gear is without compromise. The deal breaker here lies in the extreme precision limits. While these bipods offer excellent cant and pan adjustments for standard engagements, the internal joints simply cannot achieve the absolute monolithic lockup of a massive, multi-$100 professional rig. When subjected to the severe, punishing recoil impulse of a heavy Magnum hunting load, you will inevitably experience a microscopic degree of mechanical flex in the legs. They are built for rugged adaptability, not absolute bench rest perfection. Varies up to $110. Number 3. Primo's Trigger Stick. Gen 3. In the chaotic theater of a dynamic engagement, the earth itself is often your greatest adversary. A target does not wait for you to find level ground. For generations, operators caught in uneven, jagged topography had to battle gravity and muscle fatigue, desperately trying to steady their optics without a solid anchor. This stabilizing system acts as a mechanical extension of your own skeletal structure. The true tactical advantage lies in its frictionless, one-handed operational architecture. By simply gripping the contoured handle and depressing the pistol-style trigger, the internal locking mechanisms release simultaneously. The telescoping legs instantly drop and autonomously conform to the unpredictable topography of the ground beneath you. When you release that trigger, the entire platform locks into absolute rigidity. You can transition from a standing patrol to a rock-solid kneeling position in seconds, without ever removing your primary hand from the fire control group. But true tactical mobility requires brutal honesty about your payload. This robust metal and plastic construction carries significant mass. Coming in at exactly 4 pounds, it demands a serious physical toll. If you are executing an extreme, multi-day backcountry alpine ascent where every single ounce is violently calculated, this heavy tripod will relentlessly drag down your endurance. It is a tool built for the dynamic ambush, not ultralight mountaineering. $64 to $74. Number 2. CV Life Reflex Red Dot Optics. For centuries, the iron sight dictated the pace of engagement. Aligning the rear notch, the front post, and the target required forcing the human eye to focus on 3 separate spatial planes simultaneously. In the desperate, adrenaline-fueled chaos of a dynamic encounter, those lost milliseconds were a severe vulnerability. The red dot shattered that physical limitation, allowing the operator to project a single, glowing aiming point directly onto the target. These optical systems bring that Tier 1 capability to the domestic defender through advanced microelectronic engineering. The defining feature is the proprietary motion-awake technology. Driven by an internal microaccelerometer, the circuitry acts as a sleepless mechanical sentinel. It senses absolute weapon stasis and powers down the emitter to conserve the power cell. But the instant it detects the slightest kinetic movement, the system violently surges back to life, projecting the reticle before you even bring the weapon to bear. It easily absorbs the massive reciprocating storm of a heavy handgun slide without ever losing its electrical zero. However, we must address a significant logistical flaw in its physical architecture. To maintain a sleek profile, the engineers mounted the battery tray directly underneath the main chassis. When the power cell eventually dies, you cannot simply swap it in the field. You must break the thread locking compound and physically detach the entire optic off your weapon system just to change the battery, forcing you to completely re-zero your platform from scratch. $40 to $129. Number 1. Walker's Razor Slim Electronic Earmuffs. The most devastating weapon on the battlefield is often invisible. For generations, the concussive acoustic shockwave of an unsuppressed firearm was simply accepted as the brutal cost of doing business. In the trenches and across the firing lines of history, the sheer atmospheric pressure of artillery and rifle fire acted as an invisible hammer, permanently shattering the delicate physiological structures of the human ear. A deaf operator is a highly vulnerable operator. Stripping away your spatial awareness in a dynamic environment is a fatal tactical error. Traditional foam plugs offered passive defense, but they blindly muted the entire world, cutting you off from the vital audio intelligence of approaching footsteps or critical range commands. This electronic headset completely revolutionizes the concept of sensory defense. It does not just block sound, it commands it. Driven by proprietary sound-activated compression technology, the internal microprocessors act as a hyper-intelligent digital shield. The instant the violent acoustic storm of a high-velocity primer ignition is unleashed, the system violently clamps down on the decibel spike, reducing the deafening roar to a safe, muted thud in a fraction of a millisecond. But the true tactical supremacy lies in its dual omnidirectional microphones. While it neutralizes the destructive blast, it simultaneously amplifies the low decibel ambient whispers of the environment. You can hear the subtle snap of a dry twig in the heavy brush, or hold a tactical briefing with your team at a normal vocal volume, all while a heavy caliber rifle is discharging right next to your head. The ultra-low-profile slim cup architecture ensures the physical polymer never violently collides with the stock of your weapon when you establish a tight, aggressive cheek weld. It is the absolute pinnacle of sensory manipulation, turning your auditory defense into a devastating offensive advantage. $42 to $76. The landscape of the modern engagement has changed permanently. You no longer need the backing of a federal defense budget to secure professional-grade tactical advantages. From stabilizing your platform in unforgiving terrain to defending your physiological senses from the devastating acoustic impact of your own weapon system, the tools of survival are now fully accessible. But remember this fundamental truth. A high-tier optic or a precision torque wrench does not automatically forge a disciplined operator. Gear is only as formidable as the mind behind the trigger. These 10 accessories provide the absolute mechanical foundation. The physical execution and the relentless training are entirely on you. If you want to continue stripping away the industry marketing and uncovering the brutal reality behind the gear you trust to defend your home, hit that subscribe button right now. Stay sharp, stay ready, and maintain your tactical advantage.